Welcome, welcome. Hi, Luba. Hi, Dr. Chen. Who else do we have down here? Hi, Sasha. We've got a few of us here, but I do want to stay on time. So what I think I might do is go straight into presentation mode. And since we only have, we're only here for a half hour, we've got probably about 5 minutes I'd like to do afterwards for some Q&A. And I'm going to go straight through on the presentation side, just to give you guys the clinical pearls and what I shared or what I've learned. And then afterwards, we'll do the Q&A. And if that works great for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and get started, but I might need some help. There is a Q&A thing where you should be able to post in questions. I might not see them while I'm presenting, but I would like confirmation to see if you guys can see my screen. So if I go into a presentation mode here, are you able to see my screen? I'm going to pull this away just so I can go to here, check the chat, see if anyone can see that. I do not know. I'm flying blind. Okay, well, the challenges I think here with a brand new thing. Luba, Sasha, any of you guys, if you can text me just to let me know whether you can hear me, Dr. Chen, any of you guys that have my cell phone, I'd really appreciate that. All right, with that, I am going to present. So today, Functional Medicine Practice Accelerator for the seminar we had on 6/6 June with Dr. Brandon Lundell. Really a humbling, oh, thank you for that confirmation that you can see the slides. Really a humbling experience being in this industry for 15 years on the professional support side and feeling confident that you know a lot. And then you come across a practitioner who's just kind of blowing your mind every 15 minutes. You're learning new things that are expanding your mind. And it was really both humbling and inspiring. So it took me probably 10 hours to synthesize half of the seminar. And there's no way I could capture it all. So what I'm going to do is kind of rip through, and I'm going to go quite fast. I speak fast generally, but I hope you guys will appreciate that. If you have questions, pop them into the chat box. There should be one there. When I just went to go look at it, it looked like it was only within my team. So if it turns out that I'm not able to access those, then I'm going to get back to you afterwards. Okay, so let's get started here. Here's our disclaimer. I'm a guy on the internet, right? We're not doing anything to treat, diagnose, cure, prevent any disease. These are my opinions. These are the opinions of Dr. Lundell. The material is only for licensed healthcare professionals only. We're going to do about 30 minutes, about 5 minutes of QA. It's going to be recorded. Again, I'm going to talk fast. There's a lot of lab testing in the actual seminar. We won't be able to go into that, but we're going to talk about the supplements he discussed, specific key areas of support, and then some continuing education. At the end of this thing, I'm going to do a pop quiz with 3 different questions. Each winner is going to receive a free bottle of a biotic supplement. Today, I think I'm going to do the Sleep Tide Synergy. So, but it may not relate to the product itself, but here we go. Okay, so his mantra was, good practitioners know what to do, but great practitioners know why. He says, I can give you protocols and memorize diabetes, autoimmune, supplement list, and you'll help people, but great practitioners understand the physiology, anatomy, and mechanisms. So he prefers the clinical depth versus protocol memorization. And I'm guilty of the protocol memorization. I've kind of sharpened my sword on remembering what my mentors told me and putting those together. And so this this teacher really pushed the envelope for me in really good and healthy ways. Again, understanding versus memorization. He knows that he wants you to be as skilled and excellent as you can be. The worst approach involved memorizing supplement lists for elevated low or high lab values and not understanding the physiological mechanisms. And so he asked us, he was like, so what is alpha lipoic acid? What actually is CRP? What are AST and ALT? And of course, in a room full of 50, 60 practitioners, we had our various ideas, but he kind of broke it down into the things. He had studied Latin, so that kind of was a little bit of an advantage. But he said, alpha lipoic acid is known as a thiol. It's a sulfur-containing compound. It's an antioxidant, helps recycle glutathione and has an affinity to the mitochondria. And ALA, or alpha lipoic acid, is unique in that it has its activity in both fat and water soluble tissues. That's unique in the nutritional thing. So understanding what a nutrient is and does, or what a particular condition is, helps you apply the principles across the board. And that is when you begin to think like a practitioner. So again, another example, he says, what's CRP? Everyone's like, it's an inflammatory marker. He's like, yeah, but what is it? He said it's an interleukin. What's an interleukin? Intervenes between leukin is a white blood cell, meaning it is a communication between white blood cells. So it's a chemical messenger. So what then makes the T cells secrete CRP, and where do those T cells exist? He said the gut, liver, and heart mostly. Therefore, if it's elevated, we'd be looking at gut, liver, or heart. Is there a leaky gut? Do you need cardio support? Is there liver concerns? And so one of the themes that I'll mention later is that he never wants you to look at a single marker on a lab and kind of draw a conclusion from that. You have to look at these other support things to tell you the story. The other example was AST and ALT. He's like, people like, they're enzymes. He's like, what kind of enzymes? They're liver enzymes. Well, where do liver enzymes exist? Inside liver cells. So if we're seeing liver enzymes in the blood, then that tells us what? There's oxidative damage to the liver cells. And what can we learn from that? The liver cells can't handle the oxidation levels that it's being exposed to. And when the cells get damaged, the first thing that breaks is the cell membrane. And then he asked us, what's the cell membrane made of? Well, phospholipid bilayer. Well, phosphatidylcholine is 80% of that phospholipid. So phosphatidylcholine, the product, is the first thing to think of to stabilize cell membranes. Remember that one, because this is going to be phosphatidylcholine we're going to talk about quite a bit. And Dr. Lundell uses a ton of phosphatidylcholine. He said he wished he had patented it. So laboratory medicine versus diagnostic foundation. He believes the blood chemistry represents the most misunderstood and underutilized clinical tool available to the modern physician. And when he presents comprehensive functional lab panels to primary care physicians, he says, oftentimes the doctors don't recognize what they're seeing. They understand the physiology and the pathology of each analyte, where it originates, what it does in the body, distinguishes great practitioners from good ones. So one just basic thing is therapeutic dosing. Like he mentioned a story of a niece. His niece got sick. She was in the hospital. She caught MRSA. She's going downhill. Dr. Lundell's trying to help the doctors and showing them, studies of things that they could do to help his niece, but they wouldn't do it. And so we asked the folks in the audience, like, what's one thing in a hospital dispensary that they could have used to help his niece? And she ultimately had like pancreatitis, and she was in there for like 6 months. And the answer was N-acetylcysteine, surprisingly. And he explains why. But along those lines, understanding therapeutic dosing, a lot of practitioners are scared of using therapeutic dosing. But the takeaway is that, in acute situations, you have to dose acutely. And without acute dosing, you're actually doing a disservice to the patient. Based on their body weight and their need, you should dose accordingly. Now, that's something you can find out in the literature of what the upper limits are. Oftentimes, I know those things, or I can find out for you. And, in many cases, it's more challenging when you've got a patient that's on a number of supplements and you've got to make some difficult choices. But that's an important point. And he's talking about the cofactors that he talked about alk-Phos because it predicted 10-year mortality with 85% accuracy. And he's like, what is it? It's an enzyme. What part? Well, it's part of the ribosomes, where the protein synthesis of the cell and genetic instructions from messenger RNA are translated into the amino acids that fold into proteins. But what is required to make the enzymes work? Cofactors. What are the alk-Phos cofactors? They're B6 primarily, B2 riboflavin, zinc, and magnesium. Without those, the body cannot make the enzyme. So if alk-Phos is too low, your body's not utilizing it or making it or missing that cofactor, then it could be low protein consumption, absorption, utilization, because enzymes are made from protein. Could be high oxidative stress. So the point, look at what it is and what it does and what it needs to function. In the clinical pearl, low alk-Phos is most often a sign of leaky gut. Why? Because the gut line secretes intestinal alk-Phos to defend against and detoxify the lipopolysaccharides. And over time, that intestinal alk-Phos gets low and the LPS irritates, inflames, and breaks down the tight junctions of the gut wall and causes leaky gut. So to the point I made earlier, never rely on a single marker in blood chemistry. If CRP is low, does that mean that they do not have inflammation? No, because CRP is just one form of inflammation. What specific interleukins trigger CRP? IL-6, IL-10. And he talked about counterbalancing and diverging factors in blood chemistry. So you can have two opposing factors that make the labs look normal, when in reality, they're divergent compensations that make the labs look normal. For instance, you can have an iron deficiency that makes mean corpuscular volume low, and a B12 deficiency that makes their MCV higher. But because they're iron deficient and B12 deficient, their MCV looks normal. So they equal each other out. He says this happens all the time. And he asked, what's the main cause of high blood pressure? And you guys, I'm going to pause for 1 second because I might need to let people in. Apologies here. Just make sure. This is a new system over here for me, so I can't see it. I'm going to continue on. I'm glad you guys were on time. So the main cause of high blood pressure is inadequate blood flow to the glomerular apparatus, and that was news to me. So if you don't know, the glomerular, mouthful, apparatus is located in the kidney, and that regulates blood pressure via the ACE enzyme, the angiotensin converting enzyme, and it's part of the RAS, the renin-angiotensin aldosterone system. And if the glomerular apparatus is not getting enough blood flow, that is one of the primary drivers of an increase in ACE that increases blood pressure, and hence ACE inhibitors, right? Or ARBs. And now BioCardioCert is a product that I love and I take daily. Its a primary mechanism of action is to reduce inflammation and thus increase blood flow. We'll talk about that formula here in a moment. But what marker predicts cardiovascular mortality 3 to 5 times better than anything else? Homocysteine. Homocysteine is an indicator of the methylation deficiencies that we need to make nitric oxide and make glutathione to keep the damage of the kidneys at bay. That is why N-acetylcysteine works for blood pressure. It's why N-acetylcysteine works for insulin resistance and leaky gut. Again, lowering inflammation. Higher inflammation causes damage to the insulin receptors. Higher inflammation causes damage, to the gut. And for the similar, that's why it works for PCOS, because you've got oxidative damage plus insulin resistance, and an N-acetylcysteine can work to balance hormones as well. It has some mechanisms there. So do you take N-acetylcysteine or glutathione? And the answer is N-acetylcysteine, because we are giving the precursor to glutathione. Now, N-acetylcysteine needs cofactors to produce glutathione peroxidase, selenium, vitamin D, and C, and I highlighted selenium and C because oftentimes those are missed by practitioners. But if you think about this, the half-life of glutathione is only about 7 minutes. It's almost virtually gone in 3 hours. Glutathione has no mechanism to get into the cell. It's a water-based molecule. There's no glutathione receptor. So it's when we do give it, and there's times it's appropriate to give glutathione, it's being used up fairly rapidly. Dr. Lundell mentioned that he'll take glutathione if he eats sushi and he needs to detox, or he's traveling and he needs extra support. But with NAC, it's both the precursor to glutathione and it helps recycle it. And never forget those cofactors. Again, vitamin C, and then he loves to give multi-mins iron and copper free, because in his words, by giving these trace minerals, he's potentiating all these different pathways, cellular functions, etc. And so it makes it kind of simple that you're going to get your selenium, right? You're going to get your zinc. And some of the ones that people are more rare that people don't necessarily think of, like rubidium or molybdenum. Whoops. So N-acetylcysteine, as we kind of mentioned, it helps drop blood pressure. Why? Because it's an antioxidant and it lowers inflammation. It helps with insulin resistance, again, because it's an antioxidant and it lowers inflammation. It helps heal the gut. We know that. And he likes to use that with GI Resolve. It's a powder we'll talk about soon. And it helps detox all environmental toxins. It doesn't, unfortunately, detox heavy metals, but he talks about doing NAC challenge tests with patients, and sometimes they'll put them on 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams a day in divided doses 1 to 2 weeks prior to testing. And he's really adamant about the divided doses because it exponentially improves the patient results. He calls it the area under the curve. The area under the curve in his mind here is how much time, how much time can we have that body with that continuous support. N-acetylcysteine also binds to gluten. I mean, we've got a product called glutarase. It's an exopeptidase that breaks up the gluten protein, but N-acetylcysteine binds to gluten. So I didn't know that. That was new to me. Long-term N-acetyl dosing, 500 to 1,000 milligrams a day, and you have to use it with fatty liver. It's an oxidative process. N-acetylcysteine boosts hepatic glutathione along with grapeseed extract that's contained in biocyanidins, and also the BioCardioCert product that I was just mentioning. So you can get it from either of those sources. But when you bring that 3 to 5 grams a day in divided doses of N-acetylcysteine, typically 3 grams to start with, for 3 to 4 months, he says it works every time, and no drug can do that. And why does it work? Because we understand the mechanism behind what the problem is in the tissues. So his fatty liver protocol will include N-acetylcysteine, biocyanidins, and also phosphatidylcholine. Now, vitamin C is interesting because it's one that, of course, is probably one of the first vitamins anyone ever learns about. And for me, it kind of fell to the back seat until this presentation with him. And he said humans are the only animal on the planet that does not make their own vitamin C. We got to consume it daily, and vitamin C in veggies, they drop by as much as 50% in 24 hours. Why? Because it's an antioxidant. The cells of the vegetable, or in the case of grass-fed beef, is a source of vitamin C, but it drops immediately because as the cells are dying, they're using the vitamin C that's available in the meat or in the vegetables as an antioxidant to try to protect itself as it's defending itself as it's dying. The highest concentration of vitamin C in the body is in the adrenals. And in fact, they used to use adrenals. Adrenal glandular was the original vitamin C pill. Now, Dr. Lundell likes to use Biotics glandulars. Those are our cytozyme products because they freeze dry them immediately. So that stops the loss of the vitamin C. They use neonatal animals, younger animals, which have way more vitamins and are more anabolic tissues than old dead animals that he said have been sitting in their own feces. And then Biotics also adds superoxide dismutase and catalase, which helps preserve the nutrients even further. A little bit more on vitamin C. Humans need to consume 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day to match what other mammals on the planet produce to meet their own demands. The RDA for vitamin C is only 90 milligrams for men or 75 milligrams for women. So that is, a dose that you would need to take to prevent, a pathology, not what's optimal. And then importantly, and why it's so significant, is vitamin C helps all enzymes in the body. So Dr. Lundell takes BioC Plus daily. He also likes to take it at night to help improve sleep, by the way. And then I take BioCardioCert BP, which again, we'll talk about soon. So it was exciting when you got a teacher who's talking about supplements that he loves and the reasons why, and you're already taking that supplement. And here we go, BioCardioCert BP. It's not just for high blood pressure. It's an excellent general antioxidant. Why does it lower blood pressure? Because it's an anti-inflammatory. And Lundell loves it specifically for the vitamin C, the grapeseed extract, and the taurine. Now, grapeseed extract is neuroprotective. It helps leaky gut. It helps with fatty liver. We just talked about that. And it's a superior aromatase inhibitor. It's better than DIM. And the studies show that. So that was really neat. He talked about DIM in a previous webinar he did. And he said that DIM is a little bit selective. And so it can inhibit, for example, breast cancer, but it can increase cancer in other areas of the body. And then taurine is the third, primary ingredient that he loves in BioCardioCert. And he said, why is taurine in a cardio blood pressure formula? He keeps, his mantra, a good doctor knows what to do, a great doctor knows why. It's because taurine is a potent antioxidant. It's a sulfur-containing amino acid. It supports the sulfation pathway. And where is the highest concentration of taurine in the body? It's the heart. Why the heart? Because the heart has the highest concentration of mitochondria. And taurine is a mitochondrial protectant. So when you're looking at your mitochondrial support protocols, you'll definitely want, along there with vitamin B, the B vitamins and CoQ10, taurine will be in there as well. And if you think about taurine is an amazing, very few people talk about it enough. But it helps all these different tissues in the body. And you think about the heart, the liver, the brain, the gut, they all have, they're highly vascularized. They have a lot of turnover. They work hard. And so taurine is going to have a huge emphasis, but it also helps with insulin resistance and bone building. And it's just an anti-aging thing. And if you notice that, taurine is in Red Bull, right? Well, it's in there because taurine calms the jitteriness that you'll get from the high caffeine that's in there. It's in taurine is in 16 different formulas, from our magnesiums to the BioCardioCert, the gallbladder biliary support. And then this is another one of my favorites. It's hard, I say it a lot, but Caparest is one of Lundell's all-time favorites due to the NF-kappa beta anti-inflammatory actions. And I'm going to pause there for a second. NF-kappa beta is intracellular. When you modulate intracellular NF-kappa beta, you are modulating, therefore, all upstream inflammatory signals. So when people say cytokines, chemokines, interleukins, prostaglandins, tumor necrosis factor alpha, those are all upstream from TNF or NF-kappa beta. So by taking Caparest, it's kind of like a volume control knob on inflammation, or a governor, like on a go-kart, a golf cart. You can't go too fast. Well, Caparest keeps that dialed down so that signal can't explode and have runaway inflammation. But that's only half the equation of kappa rest. The other intracellular activator is something called NRF2, or the antioxidant response element. And that helps the cells, it signals the cells to protect themselves by inducing them to produce their own glutathione, their own superoxide dismutase, and their own catalase. It contains high bioavailability curcumin, contains boswellia, rosemary, ginger, alpha lipoic acid. We talked about that. Celery seed, resveratrol, bee propolis, green tea, black pepper. And Lundell takes it himself preventatively. Now, he said if you add kappa rest to your N-acetylcysteine protocols, it virtually eliminates the need for glutathione. And in part, because alpha lipoic acid is in there, it's helping to recycle glutathione itself and produce it in the cells, right? There it is. It recycles glutathione, stabilizes cell membranes. Now that's similar to phosphatidylcholine. I'm thinking phosphatidylcholine is my primary cell membrane stabilizer. And then the boswellia and celery seed help with connective tissue. He mentioned a study that showed boswellia reversing disc generation. And you got to take kappa rest with a fat. The reason is that boswellia specifically is a resin, and it's notoriously difficult to absorb. But Lundell said if you take it with phosphatidylcholine, it will work even better, because PC acts as an usher to the boswellic acids and pulls it into the cells. The dose is 3 to 6 a day. Lundell really likes 6 a day. When I typically would dose this for anyone initially, I'm at 6 a day. If they can go down, later to 3 a day, great. But 6 a day is a really powerful dose, and again, like anti-aging as well as inflammation modulating. Now, phosphatidylcholine, prior to this seminar, phosphatidylcholine to me was a formula that I used to kind of like, I explain it as like dish soap to fats, right? It just emulsifies that. It helps the body eliminate fats, and so it would be, part of a biliary support strategy, liver, fatty liver, all that kind of thing. But now I see it in a different way. It helps stabilize the cell membrane. It protects all cells, especially the liver cells, from oxidative stress. And of course, as we mentioned, the fatty liver conditions, and it supports methylation. Now, it does so in a primary and a secondary way. A primary, yes, phosphatidylcholine can be broken into choline and go through a pathway and actually be a methyl donor, but it has a more significant and profound support by being methyl sparing in the body. Now, the dose is 2 to 4 grams a day. That's 4 to 8 soft gels. When I came out of that seminar, I immediately threw phosphatidylcholine into my protocol. So I'm taking 4 a day. We'll see how it works out for me, but I'm pretty excited about it. Now, as it relates to methylation, Dr. Lundell said, look, this is one leverage point to help patients. And gun to my head, what would I pick? He said, I'd pick methylation. And it's one of the most important epigenetic supports we can offer. It helps your patients detoxify, yes, but it turns on and off genes, and healthy methylation is associated with longevity. And most practitioners get it wrong, he said, more than just taking methyl groups if someone has the MTHFR SNP. And so, but he asked us, what is the body's main methyl donor? I didn't know this, but it's SAMe. He says the whole point is to have methyl groups that you can transfer to methylate receptors. Biologically active methyl groups only exist in SAMe. SAMe is the only and best methyl donor in the body. And Dr. Lundell is one of the only practitioners in the United States that regularly checks serum SAMe levels in his patients. Not the genetic testing, but the actual serum testing. Doctors Data, I think, is the only lab that tests serum SAMe. And he found that 80% of his patients with normal homocysteine levels had low serum SAMe. That means that their methylation is compromised. And so there's 2 ways to create a methylation deficiency. Obviously, your genetics would be one part of it, or acquired, and you've got increased nutritional demand. So he said that methylfolate and methyl B12 or methylcobalamin are not enough. Why is it not enough? Well, he gives samethylfolate, that's our biotics product, especially in the beginning. And the reason is that it takes weeks, if not months, for the body to start producing SAMe, even if you're giving methylfolate or methylcobalamin. And this was profound. I love this. He says, where does 60% of the methylation go to in the body? No one answered it. No one knew. 60% of methylation goes to one single process. It goes to phosphatidylcholine because it's such an abundant molecule in the body. It gets the lion's share of the body's methyl donors. So when I was telling you earlier that phosphatidylcholine is methyl sparing, right? It's you by giving phosphatidylcholine, you're addressing 60% of what methylation is being directed to in the body. So by bringing that into the body, you're essentially, addressing the biggest methyl leak in the boat, in the methylation boat. So samethylfolate's the product he uses, has some B6, methylfolate, methylcobalamin, that's the B12, SAMe, L-methionine, and then of course superoxide dismutase and catalase. And the dose is at 1 to 2 capsules twice per day. He said, he gave us a functional medicine definition. He says, our job as functional medicine doctors in a sentence is to optimize every part of the cell, period. What cell? Every cell. What tissue? Every tissue. What gland? Every gland. What organ? Every organ. He says, giving GLP-1s is not functional medicine. Giving methylene blue is not functional medicine. In fact, giving methylene blue without the necessary cofactors, remember he's talking about the cofactors, it's like putting a rocket engine on a car with only 3 wheels. The car will go, but eventually the other 3 wheels are going to fall off. So we have to take care of the cell, which is why he always gives a multivitamin, multimineral, and it's essential with your protocols. It essentially potentiates the entire stack of anything you're putting into your protocols. And mineral deficiencies often run in packs, meaning there are often multiple minerals that are low at the same time, selenium and zinc, and rubidium, etc. Now, B12 is interesting. B12 is called the great masquerader for a reason because it does so much in the body. And one of the main signs of chronic B12 deficiency is demyelination. And I think I've got some peripheral neuropathy that I had long before I got into the health domain, and no one really could identify it. It wasn't coming from, the neck or spinal stuff. And now I'm looking back and thinking this could have been this long-term chronic B12 deficiency. And the majority of B12 is stored in the liver. And he said, so on a lab, you could have a person with a B12 deficiency with normal to high serum B12 due to damage of liver cells spilling into the serum and artificially inflating the B12 there. He talked about subacute degeneration of the spinal cord. It's an actual disease. You get symptoms like dizziness, kind of Parkinson's, dementia-like symptoms. It's really just subacute degeneration of the spinal cord. He's like, give B12, give him fish oil, like Biomega 1000, heal the gut, address any autoimmunity, and you're good. So that's really important. Now, the B12 2000 lozenges is a hydroxycobalamin. The cool part about hydroxycobalamin is that anyone can absorb it, even if they have the MTHFR genetic SNP, and the body can convert it into methylcobalamin or back into hydroxycobalamin as it needed. So this is a sublingual, it's a very delicious tasting B12. He talked about an autoimmune triad. He says, rarely are we born with autoimmune. It's almost always an epigenetic response. And the triad of cofactors that largely determine autoimmune are genetic predisposition, like methylation or what have you, and intestinal permeability. There's a study that came out, I forget where it was maybe Norway, he mentioned, that showed this intestinal permeability tied to all these autoimmune cases. Now, I asked, I had kind of came from the group that like viruses, can cause or underlie an autoimmune thing. And he said, yes. He said, but viruses cause leaky gut. And then third on his list were the environmental triggers. And there you go. There's a virus right there, Epstein-Barr, vaccine injury, psychosocial stress, etc. He mentioned that identical twin studies, again, genetically identical, monozygotic identical twins, only 30% concordance rate with disease. So 70% of the people did not get the same disease as their sibling, even though they had the same disease. So it gave us, a good raw number that 70% is epigenetic, that your DNA is not your destiny. Now, for leaky gut support, I just want to get some, quick ones in here for digestion. If you don't know, GI Resolve is a powder that's designed to heal leaky gut or semi-permeable, gut membrane. And it contains a whopping dose of L-glutamine, 4 grams, so per serving. It tastes kind of like unsweetened black tea, but zinc carnosine is in there, and that's the most researched ingredient in this formula. But it also has the aloe and the okra and the deglycerized licorice, those mucilaginous mucoprotective agents that help that vitally important mucus layer that protects the GI lining. So you're giving what heals the gut as well as support for that mucosal layer. If you think about the keystone or cornerstone probiotic in the gut called Akkermansia, that lives in that mucosal layer. So if someone has a low mucosal layer, it has no home for the Akkermansia. But he talked about zinc carnosine, that it's a drug in Japan because it treats H. pylori and leaky gut. He read a National Geographic article that talked about the diet of chickens is so bad, they get leaky gut, they don't gain weight, and they die. And then they added zinc carnosine to their water. The chickens gained weight, and they didn't die. And they also added oregano oil to the water. We have a product called ADP that does that, and it virtually eliminated antibiotic resistance in some of the animals. And I kind of feel obligated. I got to give some upper GI support here. We're talking about leaky gut, but you can't, you got to fix the roof that's, that has the leak that's coming in and damaging your hardwood floors. You got to fix that roof before you call the hardwood floors guy, right? That's kind of my metaphor for this. So Hydrozyme is a primary, first line of support for HCl. It's gentle. It has the cofactors to produce endogenous HCl. Bromelain plus CLA, a pancreatic enzyme support formula, and then beta TCP that stands for beets, taurine, vitamin C, and pancreolipase for those who are interested. And he doses them at 1 to 2 a meal for any patient that needs digestive support, like SIBO, bloating, fatigue after a meal, cover a lot of digestive problems. He says, don't need it forever, but the first 3 to 6 months to help with digestion, lower inflammation, it can be helpful. And then with SIBO and SIFO, or small intestinal fungal overgrowth, you can use the SIBO kit. It's a 30-day program. We don't have time to go into that now, but it's a remarkable program. I'm kind of wrapping up here. Spoke really fast, and I hope that's okay. Dr. Lundell has a mentorship program. I think he only takes 12 people. I think it's a 6-month program. You get one-on-one time with him. You've also got like a dozen group sessions. It's an excellent way if you're looking to further your education and expand your knowledge. I can attest that like this guy knew more than just about any other practitioner I've ever encountered. It was really impressive. It's sponsored by Doctors Data and Biotics Research, Professional Co-op, and these other things. And so you get like $2,000 in bonuses from them, including a 15% discount on biotic stuff. So, I'm not here to just pitch his stuff. I'd love for you to speak to him if you'd like to about it. But with all the additional bonuses, the mentorship base price of just about $4,000 comes into about $1,200. And a lot of people want to get and work with Dr. Lundell. And he said the most cost-effective way to do that is to actually join the mentorship program. So you get to work on your patient cases, but also yourself, and you get all these free tests and you get all these discounts. So it made more sense that way. And then finally, we've got the EPIC Functional Medicine Conference. Let me see if I can pop out of my presentation here and show you what that's about. It's in early November, and Oh, I might not be able to find it right now, but it is a 3-day conference with industry leading practitioners like Dr. Lindsay Berkson, a hormone scholar, or David Brownstein, the medical doctor who has revolutionized our understanding of iodine. The doctor who wrote the authored the landmark study that showed that herbal botanicals are superior to, or at least equal to, rifaximin, in which that study they used biotics supplements, and also Dr. Brett Wisniewski, who came out here last year and did a bang-up job. So that's what I've got for you today. I went fast. It was supposed to be fast. I'm going to see if I can get to any questions. And I've got 3 questions for you, as I was going to do a pop quiz here. First question, first person that answers this, it might be via email. If I'm not able to get to the Q&A, is what nutrient stabilizes cell membranes and provides 60% of where methylation is directed to in the body? And it's also a cornerstone formula for fatty liver cases. Second question, quiz. What is Dr. Lundell's favorite formula that, oh God, it's so easy, that is a precursor to glutathione and helps recycle glutathione? And this third one's going to be a bonus one that we didn't cover in the presentation, so it's a little bit tricky. What is the newest product from Biotics that is a plant-based peptide formula for sleep that combines, tricky question here, combines the GABAergic support along with the orexin pathway cortisol muting peptides in one product? It's the newest product. All right. Good luck to you guys. I'll be mailing you a product if you get it right. If I don't get it in the Q&A, I will find it in your email. All right. I appreciate you guys. Let me see if I can get to some questions here. Wish me luck. I'm nervous right now because I haven't used this. See if I can get to chat for my thing here. Okay, scrolling down. Fun fact from Dr. Chen, guinea pigs also don't make vitamin C. Oh my God, that's great. Yes, phosphatidylcholine, Dr. Chen. Got it. Okay, second question for precursor to glutathione. Anyone? All right. Well, we'll catch you guys later. Thank you all for joining. I will send out this recording and maybe even some of my notes if you'd like. And Sasha got NAC, boom, second winner. What was the third one? Does anyone have the third one, which was the newest product in our line? They're peptides for sleeping. Bam, Sasha, 2 out of 3. Okay. All right. With that, I'm going to wrap it, you guys. Thank you so much for your time and your attention.